Hey y'all, I wanted to share a story about something that happened a week ago on 8/8, which is actually the Lion's Gate. And if you don't know what that is, there's tons of stuff you can read about it. But essentially, is there's a star called Sirius, and it aligns perfectly with Earth. And essentially, what's happening is there's an increase of cosmic energy between the spiritual realm and the earthly realm, or the physical universe, or I guess you could say the three-dimensional universe is what we live in, and the fifth dimensional. And it's specifically connected to the energy and heart space. Like I said, there's a bunch of stuff on it. So I work at a little crystal shop in Little Italy on Saturdays. It's called Earth Elements. The manager there, I connected with her, and she's just super cool. And so I work on Saturdays simply just to be around her. Plus, I'm growing my business and spiritual teachings and all this kind of stuff. And so it's the perfect place to be. Also, if you need crystals or anything, let me know, because we got like pretty much everything. And so I'm outside of the shop. We have a little booth set up just to make sure, with all the stores closing down, there's a lot of foot traffic and the main strip of Little Italy. So there's people walking by, and so they have me sitting out front, and I'm doing oracle cards and just chatting people up and all this kind of stuff. And I'm outside out front, and this guy comes walking down the street, and I see this dude, and he's holding he's holding a bag of golf clubs, which I thought was pretty awkward, but maybe he's going to his car, and a briefcase. And I was looking at him, and I was like, it's a weird combination. And I couldn't really tell if there's a lot of homeless people down here. I couldn't really tell if he's homeless because his clothes were semi put together, but he just had a very bewildered look on his face. It's almost like he was lost. And he comes walking by the booth, and he stops, and he looks at me, and he says, and I'm not going to use the word because the word shouldn't exist, but he says, another stupid N-word with the ER. And he doesn't just say it, he says it as loud as he can without yelling. And you have to understand, in Little Italy right now, all the restaurants have their tables out on the streets for dining. So there's people everywhere. And I'm telling you, it gets as silent as a desert sky. Like, it was dead silent, and everyone froze. And I even looked at the dude, and in my head, I'm like, what did he just say? And he starts going on about how I'm just a dumb N-word, and how unintelligent we are. And at this time, I had just stood up because I was moving something on the stand we had. And I'm looking at this dude, and immediately within me, I could feel the anger, right? Rightfully so. I could feel this anger start to boil. And I'm sitting there, and I'm listening to this guy, and the anger's starting to grow. And all of a sudden, I feel this wave of sadness engulf the anger inside of me. And the best way I could describe it is, when there's those girls at the beach and they're trying to be all cute, and in front of the camera, and the wave comes and decks them. You've seen those videos on Instagram. It was almost like that. It was this anger was that girl, and the wave was this sadness. And he came and just wiped it out completely. And I'm standing there processing all this, and I haven't said a word to this guy. And it was interesting because the sadness was foreign. It was foreign. Sorry, that was my dog. It was foreign. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm not sad right now. Like, I'm angry. And it dawned to me very quickly that the sadness that I was experiencing was this man's sadness. And you might be saying, well, how do you feel his emotions? Well, there's a lot of things I can say to explain that, but I think the easiest explanation is that we're not just contained to our physical body, right? Like, our energy field extends out past our body. You can document that with scientific equipment. It's called your aura, but like you can see it physically with the right tools. So it exists. And if you study a lot of spiritual teachings, they'll tell you that as you expand your energetic self, you can almost encompass other things, other people. And so if you've ever met someone who's super sensitive to other people's emotions or feelings, that's essentially what it is. And so I'm sitting there, and this guy is saying racist things to me. He's saying hurtful things, and everyone's frozen. And I realized that the sadness is his. And in that moment, I had this, I guess you can call it cool, I call it beautiful. I had this beautiful understanding of the dynamics of this man, right? Like, he has this sadness burning inside of him. This sadness is festering and manifesting emotion and thought in his mind, which is then outwardly projecting this sadness out into the physical universe, which in this case was at me, but it's outward. And what he's looking for in return to come back to him is the matching of this sadness, right? And if you think about it, that's manifesting, right? You have this internal environment, and that internal environment affects your physical mind, your emotional body, your mind, and you act or say or speak or whatever it is, these thoughts, these feelings that go on to the universe, and then they come back to you matched. And I'm standing there, and all this fucking hits me, and I'm like, oh shit, right? And as soon as that happens, the sadness is gone, and I feel just unlimited amount of compassion. And if I'm using the same analogy of that chick getting hit by a wave, you imagine she's the anger. The initial wave that hits her is the sadness, and then the entire ocean is compassion. That's how much stronger and how much more magnitude it had. Like, the ocean is so vast, and we're looking at just a tiny little section of this occurrence. And I see this, and I'm all processing, and I'm just staring at the dude, and I don't say anything to him, and he ends up walking away. And everyone's just looking around. There's even a guy whose little kid was standing right there with him, and he was like just frozen, like, oh, what's gonna happen? And the reason I call this a beautiful moment is because if you can look past the man's words, obviously he's not whole. You know, obviously there's something in him that's broken, and it's not okay to use that word. But I think the fact, or the purpose of the teaching here is that we see what an unconscious internal state can do, right? So when you're living in a state of turmoil internally, and you're unconscious, you're unaware of that, it expresses itself through you into the universe, looking for it back. And now, let's say I would have hit that guy or yelled at him or said something to him, he would have got back in return exactly what he's looking for. But even in my silence, he let out negativity, and he got nothing back. And so if you think about that analogy in terms of something like volume, for example, you imagine you have a gas tank. He had a full tank of gas of sadness. He just let go a quarter tank, hoping to get another quarter tank back in, right? But he didn't. So now he has 3/4 of a tank of gas. And so the question becomes, what happens with that other quarter tank that's empty? Maybe he walks down the street and someone who heard him says that beats him up. Well, it's going to be filled. Or maybe he walks down the street and a black man hands him $20 and says, hey brother, have some lunch. You know, and now where it used to be complete sadness, complete hate, anger, whatever you want to call it, now there's a little bit of compassion or joy or gratitude in this man's heart. And I think the true teaching here is just to understand how easy it is to act unconsciously, and how easy it is to speak and perform and function and live life like you're living life. You think you're aware, but you're doing things unconsciously. And so for me, the beauty in that was just that lesson, right, of just making sure that I'm consciously working on my internal environment, and therefore projecting out to the world and to the universe positive affirmations, positive words, positive thoughts, positive actions, because they do come back to you in the form of in which they came. And that is the art of manifestation. Now you can do that unconsciously or consciously. And I think the real way, if you're trying to do it consciously, is first to understand that the essence of you is inside, and try to get in touch with that through mindfulness exercise like meditation, sunsets, just anything, right? Anything that has a healing or a calming aspect to it helps you become more in touch with who you truly are on the inside. And I think as you do that more, you start to get a relationship with the inner you, the true you, And then you can start acting and living in this conscious way. And as you project that outward, it comes back to you. And that could be abundance, it could be love, it could be relationships, positive health, it could be anything. And so I guess all I'm saying is, that man, although what he said was obviously wrong, it was merely, if you can look past the words, it was merely just his internal state looking for its equal in return. And he identified me as someone he can get that from. Almost knocked over a bottle. But anyways, I just want to share that. And I don't know if that message helps you in any way. Awesome. Take care, everyone.